Hello, everyone. This is Cody Lee of BlackCatBooks.org, author of Cruel and Beautiful, Eye of the Dragon, and Rabbit Hole. Bill Cosby is officially out of prison, supposedly in a way that prevents him from being indicted on further charges regarding to these allegations that were obviously and blatantly fake as fuck. Twitter feminists are seething, and conservatives, I think, are celebrating this because Cosby was a very good example of someone who was being fucked over by the system for political reasons. In this case, by feminists in order to, his accusers to gain money and attention for themselves, but also to sort of fuck over black people. And I thought I would talk a little bit about that, why exactly the establishment wanted to come after Cosby so hard. So Cosby, for those of you who aren't aware, has had a long history of being very, very, very critical towards problems he sees, to problems in the black community, specifically problems that are well within reach of the community to fix. Right, so you have this black culture. You have people spending thousands of dollars on shoes while not providing for their children. You have the way that people are taught to dress and act and conduct themselves. You kind of have single mom culture. You have gang culture. You have all these very clearly negative things going on in the black community that aren't really being spoken out against enough. Most people, I feel most black celebrities tend to enable it or outright be part of it. They're just as violent, they're just as unhinged, they're just as they're advocates for just being for criminal behavior, right? Celebrating it as black culture. Cosby was someone who was very, very outspoken about it. Cosby was a person who was for years, decades, I think, was outright coming out, speaking out against it, describing these people as hoodlums, and really endorsing black families supporting one another and building up their communities and fixing their own problems. I'm not super familiar with his views on the situation, but I've read a couple of his controversial speeches, and I was very blown away by them because they really showcase that there are people in the black community, major black celebrities who are advocating for positive change, who do want black people to do better for themselves rather than blaming racism and white people for everything, right? So because of this, because of his image and the way he was going about this, he needed to be taken out in order to continue enabling negative black culture, in order to keep the blacks where they are, in order to keep them reliant on government welfare, on handouts, and to keep them continuing to vote Democrat, because that's kind of their party line at the moment. Vote Democrat to receive more handouts. It's he was a political prisoner, in essence. The reason they went after him so hard and destroyed his reputation was to create this narrative, right, that there was that black people are held back in society, that they are oppressed, which when that really hasn't been true, likely certainly in decades. I'm not sure. I'll have to look in the read up a little bit more on my history about North versus South blacks and stuff like that. There were, of course, free blacks in the South who actually participated in enslaving other blacks. That is a thing that's been known. I'm not an expert on this subject, obviously. I'm not an expert on black history or anything like that. I don't pay attention during Black History Month. Okay. But the important thing I think that needs to be taken away from this, I think the important thing that really the black community needs to realize is that they need not just black people, but I think liberals and people who vote for Democrats in general, is what they really need to understand is that no one is going to help you fix your own problems. Like, the only one who can fix your problems and make your life better is yourself. Like, if you want to, like, improve the lives of you and your people, you need to step up and make that change yourself. It starts with the individual, then a family, then a society, a community, and then finally a nation. And I think even on, like, the individual level, I don't think blacks succeed all that often because of, like, all of these just being held back by just all this toxic behavior all around them in the community that whites just ignore or write off as just being, like, due to, like, what do they call it? Like, institutionalized racism. Like sort of like how they describe, like, white people living near blacks as, like, gentrification, but if, like, whites move away, it's like segregation. Like no matter what white people do, right? It's kind of like racist towards blacks. That's kind of a it's ridiculous. It is absurd, like patently absurd. And Cosby being free, I hope, is a sign that maybe that these corrupt judges and activist courts, like, won't be able to, like, really keep the lid on, like, certain won't be able to keep condemning obviously innocent people going forward. Like, we recently had, like, the Chauvin case, and I'm sure there's been others where, like, people are just getting wrongfully convicted just to appease blacks and, like, continue the Democrat narrative. It needs to stop, right? Cosby's not the only victim. Like, someone who was, like, accused of doing something that he never actually did. There are lots of people like this all over the country from lots of different backgrounds. Most, I would say, like, significantly less successful and iconic than Cosby. It's happening all the time, everywhere. I myself am seeing my business suffer because of my public support for Cosby. So it's becoming it's becoming endemic, right? The way that these people respond to how any form of criticism that goes against, like, the party doctrine. Like, you can't speak out against Cosby because that makes you can't speak out in support of Cosby because that makes you, like, a rapist enabler. But you have to support George Floyd because he's black. It's fucking stupid, okay? You are fucking retards. Complete and utter dipshits who have no idea, how the legal system works, like the facts of these individual cases, the people involved, like the situation, like, basic biology, science, like history, like all of it is lost on these people. All they care about is continuing to enable the government to take away more and more rights in order to, like, create this this facade that we're gonna someday live in, like, a communist utopia. It's just it's never going to happen, ever. Things are going to keep getting worse and worse until it finally collapses and we can start, like, building back up again. I have no hope for real recovery at this point. I do think everyone is fucked. I do think society is on the way out, but I do think society is on a decline. But I also think, actually also know that eventually that the good, righteous people of the country are going to build back everything the way it was. I am completely very certain that is going to happen. And I think this case with Cosby, seeing him go free, that's just one example of that. He shouldn't have been in jail to begin with, sure. There was no case against him, sure. But at the same time, he did go free, and he should stay free going forward. And with that in mind, we can't do the Nick Rekieta thing, okay? We can't just stand by and do nothing. Like, we need to, like, start seriously building everything back. Preparing for what's going to happen. Like, this idea that, like, nothing's going to happen, no, that's stupid and wrong. Like, things are going to get worse and worse and worse until finally people start to make them better. And that day is coming, but it's going to be a very, very long way away. I hope all of you are very much prepared.